Buenas tardes to everyone. Good afternoon. I'd like to begin with a question. How many of you growing up heard that education was your ticket out? Almost everyone, right? Education was the ticket out. And how many of you, whether education was your path to follow or not, heard that you had to leave your community in order to make a better life for yourself? Well, that's something that a lot of us here in rural communities, and the truth to power that I want to speak today is that education is not a ticket out, but it presents opportunities for all of us to return to our communities, to come back and make our communities better. And also, that part of this process, an important component of this is youth leadership. That youth have the power, indeed, to make our communities stronger and better. And we need to have them present at all times. So a quick story I wanted to share with everyone was that, oh, and I should change my slide, was that the story of the Llano Grande Center. Some of you may know the Llano Grande Center for Research and Development was begun actually by the initiative of youth in a community in Edyael and Elsa that combined Edyael Elsa High School, that shared the high school. And this organization began because a group of young students, of high school students, decided that they wanted to visit Ivy League schools. And so one of them, being Delia Perez, who's in the room, decided that they wanted to attain an education and not just, they wanted to attend Ivy League schools. And so organized this trip, and that was about 14 years ago or something like that, a little longer. And so every year this became a tradition for the school or for the students in class. So then when Delia Perez, after having attended Yale University, returned to Edyael Elsa High School, which is one of the poorest school districts in the state of Texas, to teach world history, and in turn taught Olga Cardoso and myself, was her sophomore world history teacher, and told us about going away for school, but also coming back. A new vision for our community began out of the initiative that youth have, that youth can bring to our communities. And so now it's a great honor to say that the entire staff for Llano Grande are all Edyael Elsa graduates that had gone away to some of the best schools in the nation and have chosen to come back to make a difference in our communities, in our schools, via education, and continue to inspire tons of high school students that, we will all continue to leave, but always return, even after graduate school. So in case you're not familiar with the Llano Grande, also the reason why I wanted to highlight why education and youth are important in our communities is because almost 10 million of our students in the United States live in rural communities. That's almost 10 million minds that we need to focus on. And also, out of those 10 million students, 2.2 million are minority students. Almost nearly half of all the students in rural communities are English language learners, as you can see there. And sadly, only about, they get funding of less than $51 a year per pupil. Also, there's been an increase in rural minority students from 1995 to 2005, with the U.S. median being 54.9% of rural minority students increase. And the highest state that experienced this increase was New Hampshire. The lowest was Hawaii. Also, out of all these 9.9 million students that are in rural communities, about 65.9% of them in New Mexico are eligible for free or reduced meals, and the U.S. median being 38.5% of these students in rural communities being eligible for free or reduced meals. And it's sad to know that the amount of money we invest in their education, in New York being the state that invests the most, with $7,000, almost $8,000 per student, and Oklahoma with $3,500 per student. So the reason why I bring up those statistics is because we have a lot of students to take care of, and according to the National Priorities Project, Our federal budget for education, only 6% is devoted to education, training, employment, and social services. So we know that less than 6% of our federal budget will go to education. Less of 6% will go to rural students. Less of 6% will go to rural minority students that need English language training as well. So why is that important? Something that I also wanted to speak to is that standardized tests are not curriculum. All the teachers clap harder. Standardized tests are not curriculum. We need an education that acknowledges local knowledge and diversity in our communities. What are the things that you can do? Fund education, obviously. Reform Title I weighted grants that discriminate against small rural schools. Expand Title II, which expands funding for teachers and for teacher development. Fund English language learner programs. Support the DREAM Act. I know I'm out of time, almost done. Support the DREAM Act because it would allow all of these minority students to have a shot at higher education. Reframe education. Don't speak about how it can get us out, but speak about how it can bring us back in. And also include youth. All of this work, the DREAM Act, all of these initiatives will be useless if we don't talk about youth. We are ready to bring our initiative, our innovation, our energy into all this policy work, but you need to create a space where we can also speak. We cannot be heard if you don't create that space. We are ready to dream the present and the future of our communities with you, but we need to dream it together.